Well, guys, at long last, we've made it. We're in the Stanley Cup Final. This is what we wait for all year, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a little surprised by the teams we're about to see in this final. We got on one side the Vegas Golden Knights, and on the other side the Florida Panthers. I don't think a lot of people really predicted this final, but I'm not going to lie, I'm really excited for it.
These are two really good teams. I'm surprised as well. I don't think many people got these two teams in the finals. Maybe some people might have got Vegas, but I don't think almost anyone got Florida. The road that these two teams took to the finals is incredible. This will be the first Stanley Cup for either one of these teams, so this is very exciting.
Yeah, I really like having the new blood here. I mean, I don't like seeing the same teams win every year, and it's nice to see some non-traditional markets get a chance. For Vegas, they've been to the Final Four now for the last 6 years, and Florida, it's been kind of a rougher time. They haven't been to the final since 1996, where they lost to Colorado. So this is going to be nice. One of these teams is going to get a really much-deserved victory. We're going to start off today and go through the roads that these teams took to get to this point, and then we're going to kind of break down the matchup offensively, defensively, in net, and then special teams, an X factor for both teams that we think could make the difference to win the Stanley Cup, and then finally our prediction on this final. And I'm going to start off by talking about the Florida Panthers here, because their road, man, what an unreal path to get here. They had to go through the President's Trophy Boston Bruins, in which they managed to come back down 3-1 in that series and in overtime in Game 5 to win in 7. Just honestly unreal. Once Bobrovsky came in, that team was just a different team. Then they move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team that was at that point the favorite to win the Cup by Vegas odds betting. And what happened was quite a shock to a lot of people. They almost swept Toronto and they won in 5. And then finally, last round, really crazy round. Absolutely no one could have probably told me that they were going to win in 4. But they managed to dispatch the Hurricanes. Although all those games were 1 goal, still a sweep, still counts. And now they're here for all the marbles against the Vegas Golden Knights.
The Vegas Golden Knights, on the other hand, they're not really much of a surprise because they were number 1 in the Western Conference, number 1 in the Pacific Division. First round, they faced the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg Jets is a good team, but I think a lot of people knew that Vegas Golden Knights were just going to win that, or most people were going to take Vegas to win that series, as they were a pretty heavy favorite in that series. Now, the second round, they will move on to play against the Edmonton Oilers. Now, in this series, I think a lot of people favored the Edmonton Oilers at the time to win because of the high caliber scoring of obviously the Connor McDavid and the Leon Draisaitl. But wow, the Vegas did a tremendous job at defending those type of players, playing a specific type of system, matching their physicality, and really win that series. Aiden Hill came in that series and absolutely stole that series. So in all, like, it's insane. And then just recently, the conference final, they had a really hard matchup against the Dallas Stars. They were destroying the Dallas Stars for the first 3 games. We all thought they were going to sweep that series, but Dallas came back. Jason Robertson had really kicked it up a notch in the games 4 and games 5 and made a difference, but they really shut them down in game 6. So yeah, it's well deserved by both of these teams. Both of these teams got to this final. It's exciting that both of these teams are going to be brand new Stanley Cup winners.
Yeah, no, I can't emphasize that enough. That is a really hype point of this year's playoffs, is someone new winning, and one of these markets that is, in Vegas's case, very new. I mean, 2017, that's not that long ago, so that should be interesting to see. We're going to start off here talking about the offenses here. These teams kind of have some different ways about going about scoring. One team in the Vegas Golden Knights, they rely on scoring by multiple lines. They run 3 lines that can all hurt you. They all score. We've seen that so far already this playoffs. They have 7 players on that offense that have over 10 points already in this playoffs. That is a deep, deep offense. And then on the Florida side, we got a really, really good MVP candidate in Matt Tkachuk, who has been absolutely dominant, leads the playoff players remaining in points with 21. This guy has been getting game-winning goals like crazy. And then, of course, followed by, like, his Robin, I guess, to his Batman, in Alexander Barkov, who we've seen for years be one of the most underrated players in the league. But this is more of a team that's relying on their top offensive players to get it done, whereas Vegas kind of spreads it out a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas has a really strong top 9, but I like to give a lot of credit to Florida Panthers. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is almost the same team that they had last year that finished President Cup trophy last year. They have Alexander Barkov, who really picked it up in the last series against the Hurricanes. It really showed, because that Verhaeghe line was the MVP line, in my opinion, in that series. It was much better than the Matt Tkachuk line, although Matt Tkachuk did have the game winners in those two of those games. But I thought overall Barkov line was the MVP of that series, in my opinion. Not only that, Anthony Duclair is really good. I've been picking up his game. Verhaeghe picked it up in that series. Sam Bennett, cannot discount him. Sam Reinhart, they got a deep team as well offensively.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see. When you look at Vegas here, first line, when you have Jack Eichel, Barbashev, and Marchessault, this line is absolutely dynamic right now. All of these guys are like over plus 10, as well as being almost a point per game each, except for I think Barbashev's a little under, but the other two are over a point per game. Then you move down and you look at what William Karlsson managed to do to the Dallas Stars there. The guy leads the team in goals now with 10 in the playoffs. And then with Riley Smith, who we've seen time and time again in the playoffs, he has big moments, he steps up, and he's been quite a great playoff player. Then moving down to third line, Mark Stone and Chandler Stevenson, that's unreal. A lot of teams would have these guys on like a first line, and this team that's running these guys on their third line, and they're still pretty close to a point per game as well. And both of them pretty responsible in their own zone as well. So it's a really nice little mix.
Yeah, and on top of it, just a little add-on to William Karlsson. He really impressed me in terms of his defensive capabilities in that series against the Dallas Stars. He really played excellent two-way hockey. He wasn't just good offensively, he was very good defensively as well. Riley Smith really picked it up. Chandler Stevenson really picked up in that series as well. So it's interesting to see all these. To me, Vegas has a very solid forward group, as a group, like Scott alluded to. So it's going to be very interesting. It's very interesting to see how these two teams match up against each other.
Yeah, I think I'd have to give a slight advantage offensively to Vegas because of that depth, that you don't have one line you can shut down and just win the game. Although I will say the best player in this series, no question, is Matt Tkachuk offensively. Guy has so much heart, very physical player, literally made for the playoffs, his style of play. And Alexander Barkov, same type of thing, great two-way dynamic player. These two might be the two best individual players in this series. I just think that overall Vegas's depth for scoring is a little scarier. Moving on to the defense matchup here. This is where it gets interesting, because at the beginning of this playoffs, I really didn't think so much about Florida's defense, but they've really shown up in this playoffs. They look really good. Brian Montour, he had a really tough round against the Hurricanes. He really wasn't able to get much going offensively, but that doesn't mean he wasn't getting chances. This guy was all over the ice playing big minutes. The one game he played over 50 minutes. Unreal performer. He's had just such a good year. And then Aaron Ekblad, not as much offensively, but he's still shown defensively he's been a very solid player for this team, along with Gustav Forsling, who is one of my favorite players, I think, on this team, mainly because he doesn't get enough credit for what he does, but this guy is a very solid two-way defenseman as well.
Yeah, and that Carolina series, I was very impressed by how they stood up against a very clinical, solid defending team in the Carolina Hurricanes. They were able to match their pace in terms of defensively, and they were able to box out a lot of players, block a lot of passing lanes. But now when we flip to the Vegas side, they were able to do that same thing as well. They were absolutely destroyed the Edmonton Oilers because they were very good at team defending. All six of these defensemen are very good on the Vegas Golden Knights, and it showed it against the Dallas Stars, especially with Pietrangelo leading the way, how well he's been playing along. And then they got the bottom pairing defenseman, you would like to call him the bottom pairing defenseman, in Zach Whitecloud and Nicholas Hague. These are two terrific young defensemen that they have for solid contracts. It's insane how good this defense core is. It's the best. Between these two defense core, I'll say right now, the Vegas definitely has a better defense core.
Yeah, 100% would give the defensive edge to Vegas. Like Hohen said, they have all six guys that are like really good defenders. There really is no weak spot. You can't expose anyone on that defense. Florida's definitely no slouches either. This defense is really solid, although their 5-6 is not quite as strong as Vegas's 5-6, and I think that's where you really notice the biggest difference. But like Cohen was talking about in that Carolina series, with the way that they kind of boxed them out, both these teams, whether it's Florida or Vegas, in this playoffs has done really well with getting outshot and still managing to not give up great scoring opportunities. They both really clog up the middle of the ice. There's not really a lot there. They're making these guys go to the outside and on the perimeter to get shots, and we all know those aren't the best quality, high danger scoring opportunities. So I do kind of think that this series could be a little lower scoring, because I got to give props to both these defenses and what they've managed to do so far. Taking a look in net though, This is where it's quite interesting because on one end with Vegas, you got one of the hottest goalies right now in Adin Hill, who's come in after an injury to Laurent Brossoit and been absolutely insane. His numbers, if you see, like absolutely crazy numbers. What a crazy save percentage this guy has. But then on the other side, you got what could be the Conn Smythe favorite right now in Sergei Bobrovsky, who has been the best Sergei Bobrovsky we've seen since his prime in Columbus in this playoff run. This guy's been absolutely unstoppable. He's had to go against like the best offenses in the league pretty much with Toronto and with Boston. And he did such a great job against all those guys, like these star players, like whether it be Marchand, Pasta, or Marner and Matthews. Like this guy has just risen to the task.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing much more to say about Sergei Bobrovsky. He has been terrific all series. All playoffs, including the first round, second round, third round. He's been good in all of them. He was the reason why they're here today. Biggest reason why they're here today. Vegas side, Adin Hill has been very scary ever since he took over in the Edmonton series. When I saw Laurent Brossoit went down in that injury, I was actually physically in that game at Rogers Place. I was very worried because this guy is motivated. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He wants to show what on the biggest stage what he can prove in the playoffs, and he's doing exactly that right now.
Yeah, what a steal that looks like getting him for so little from the Sharks a year ago. I mean, absolutely wild. This guy has really paid off for that investment. And then, honestly, overall, I mean, I still give the edge to Sergei Bobrovsky because of the experience. And, I mean, they're both playing really hot right now, but I think the way Bobrovsky has done it, he has been a bit better of the two goaltenders. But this isn't any hate on Adin Hill by any means because he has been quite possibly the second best goaltender in these playoffs, the way he's played. So it's really good. As I say, slight edge to Florida, but overall, really good. Moving on to talking about these guys as special teams now. I mean, we've seen already the difference in a lot of these series that special teams has made. Just drastic differences. I mean, we've seen some of these teams that got like a power play in overtime and the game was just over. So this could be a very pivotal factor in the outcome of this. And when we look at the penalty kill for both of these teams, neither of these has been very good. In their defenses for both, I'll give each of them a little bit of a kind of a pass for some of this. Florida's had to go against some really elite players, especially on the power play, whether it was the Boston series where they had to go against guys like Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasta, or Toronto where they had to go against that loaded like $50 million power play unit. It's pretty hard to kill some of those off, not going to lie. But yeah, with Vegas, I mean, they had to go against the Edmonton Oilers, the best power play in history, and it really kind of has skewed the numbers. I don't think Vegas's penalty kill is as bad as it looks on paper. Like when you see their percentage, you're like, wow, that's really brutal. They only kill 2/3 of their penalties. But it's not really that. It's more the Oilers' power play is just that level of elite, like all-time great, and it really kind of blew it up and made it look worse than it was.
Yeah, I agree. The power play side, both of them are like in the middle. They're both okay. They're not great, but they're not like at the top. But they're both can score in the power play. But I want to emphasize this another time is that the Vegas Golden Knights are very good at the 5-on-5, and they don't take the many penalties. Are the least penalized team in the regular season, and that says something. I just don't think there's gonna be much power plays going there. I don't think Vegas is gonna take many penalties in this series. I just don't think they will.
Yeah, they're a really good 5-on-5 team. I don't think they want to have to take that risk to play the special teams game where they each take 3 or 4 penalties. Although I do see it being kind of a physical series. I mean, whenever you got guys like Matt Tkachuk and Sam Bennett, like on Florida, and then you look on Vegas, you got Brayden McNabb. I mean, that guy always is trying to stir stuff up. And I mean, White Cloud's pretty physical too. I mean, there's a lot of these guys on both teams that could get into it.
Oh, definitely. I saw it in the Edmonton series. It was one of the most physical series in the playoffs. So I saw it firsthand how well the Vegas Golden Knights can deter that type of physicality and win hockey games. So that's why I don't think we're gonna get to the predictions later, but I just don't feel like Matthew Tkachuk and they've seen Matthew Tkachuk many times when he was playing in Calgary. So it's not a new player for them.
But now we want to move on and talk about one player from each team who could be the big difference maker for their team if they're going to win a Stanley Cup. And we're going to start off here with the Vegas Golden Knights. And I'm going to go with Alex Pietrangelo as the guy I think that will be a key player for this series. He's going to be tasked with some big minutes. When you get this far in the playoffs and you're in the Stanley Cup Final, your best defenseman is going to be on the ice a lot. And I mean, Alex Pietrangelo has proven he has Stanley Cup pedigree, and he has the physicality. He doesn't back away. We've seen him with other star players. He's there nonstop pushing, grinding. He's not giving away an inch. And I think he's going to be tasked a lot with dealing with Matt Tkachuk. And that should be a big difference on which of those two players wins that matchup.
My pick for the Vegas Golden Knights, as we alluded to, they have one of the strongest forward groups in terms of depth. So I'm going to have to pick their best player, Jack Eichel. I mean, he's got to... I know he's had a terrific series, but he's got to continue that into the Stanley Cup Finals here. They need him to play at his absolute best. I've seen how good he can play against the Oilers and against the Dallas Stars, how well he was able to make all those crazy passes to especially Jonathan Marchessault. He's got to do that again. He's got to replicate that type of success that he got him here. He's got to do this in the finals as well.
Fair.
Yeah.
For Florida, I'm going to go with Sam Reinhart. And I think it's kind of like the other old Buffalo player like Jack Eichel there. But Sam Reinhart has to be big. We've seen already that this Florida line with Barkov and Duclair and Verhaeghe has been very good. They got even better in the last series that they just had. But a guy like Sam Reinhart's going to have to step up big. We know what Tkachuk could do. We know what that Barkov line can do. Reinhart's going to have to add that extra scoring because we talked about it with Vegas. This team has a lot of guys that can hurt you. Sam Reinhart has to give them that extra dimension of deep scoring.
My X factor for the Florida Panthers will be Brandon Montour because he kind of had a lower, like he kind of dipped it in the Carolina series. So I actually project him to kind of come back up in this series. He's got to continue shooting the puck like that he's been doing because he's been every time he shoots that puck, he's a threat on that blue line, and he's at his best. Florida is lethal when he is playing at his best, moving his legs, moving and skating around, creating odd man rushes, and making those terrific leap passes to make those to get 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, stuff like that.
Yeah, my favorite thing honestly is watching that guy wind up his cannon. He shoots like 100 miles per hour, absolutely deadly slap shot. But finally, we got to give you guys our prediction here. I mean, I really do like both these teams, so this is hard. I'm going to be honest. Part of me is cheering for Florida for the full underdog story to win their first cup and doing it as the wild card too. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with the Vegas Golden Knights winning this in 6. My reason, both these teams are really good. I just think Vegas is a little deeper. And I've noticed in past history of Stanley Cups for the last 30 years, if you go and look, the team that goes on this wild run as the big underdog Cinderella story, they make it to the cup, but then they don't win the cup. And that's why I think Vegas is going to win this.
My prediction will also be Vegas, and also 6 games as well. And my reason behind that is that Vegas is such a deep team. There's no weakness. When I look at this team, there is no weakness in this team.
It's the way they win.
It's the way they win. It's just so good. I mean, the games 4 and games 5 kind of scared me a little bit against Dallas. I'm like, how are you falling in these type of games? And I know that Florida is playing with a lot of momentum. They're playing. The thing with Florida is that they're playing with house money. Elliot Freeman said this on his podcast, and it's the best way to describe Florida Panthers. So they have nothing to lose. So that's why they play so good. But I feel like Vegas Golden Knights is a very experienced team. They've been to the finals not that long ago, actually, against the Washington Capitals in 2018. So some of these players were on that roster. Riley Smith, Jonathan Marchessault, William Karlsson. Yeah. These guys know what's up. So and Brayden McNabb. So these guys know what it takes to win. I think this is an experienced team. They're all really good. They're all in their prime right now. I think this team is ready to win.
Yeah, and when I look at the last 6 years since this team's come into the league, this team has been to the Final Four, like I said, 4 times, and now they've made the final twice. It just feels like their time. They've got to get over the hump, and they're going to have to win the Stanley Cup this year. But I want you guys to let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win the Stanley Cup and why. Until next time, we'll see you in our next video, and take care.
Take care, guys. Bye.